Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Andrew Stott and I'm the Emperor of Stomaria. Today I want to discuss an incident in which we had two individuals trespass on Stomarian territory.
This is how nations are built and empires are forged. For every nation that becomes integrated into the empire, for every territory that we acquire, for every citizen that joins us, for every drop of water we collect, for every seed that we sow, for every watt of energy we produce, for every silver bar that we stamp, we are securing our future.
So before I get into this, some context and some history is going to be required. So for those that don't know, the Kingdom of Wayward is a member state of the Empire of Stomaria. And at this time, their territory consists of Wayward South. And this, as many of our supporters, our citizens and our followers will know, is bordered to southward. And southward is a province of Stomaria. It is private freehold land that is directly owned by the imperial family, whereas Wayward South is private freehold land that is controlled by King Raoul. Now, this was not always the case, and in fact until last year it wasn't the case. Wayward South and Southward did not exist. The two individual territories, the two plots of land that are bordered to each other, was at one time just one territory, and that territory was simply the Kingdom of Wayward. And it wasn't until last year where the Kingdom of Wayward and Stomaria actually agreed a sale of one of the plots that made up the Kingdom of Wayward, and that's where the division came. It became Southward and Wayward South from that point on. And the reason they did this is, well, manyfold, I imagine, is first of all, selling it to Stomaria meant that the territory remained within the Empire of Stomaria. If they had sold it to a private developer or a private individual of any kind, they may well have just wanted to erect a fence right through the woodland, following the border, and Wayward would not be able to utilise or access that land anymore. Selling it to the Empire of Stomaria, or more specifically to Stomaria itself, meant that the territory was still considered to be within the empire. It had merely changed hands from Wayward to Stomaria, but they could still access the plot, they could still utilise the plot in some form or another. And the funds raised through the sale of that particular plot has helped and will continue to help Wayward to advance to the next level, to achieve more of their objectives further down the line. And for Stomaria, it was hugely beneficial because that was our first province, the first territory that was directly owned by the imperial family. And we were able to accessed that land and have been able to utilise that land to great benefit. And the benefits of all of this is plain to see and was highlighted very well at the Imperial Summit, where we have both been working to utilise these two woodland territories which are bordered to each other. They have a legal boundary, a legal border, but you wouldn't know just by walking around the woodlands where that was. And that's, broadly speaking, how we've intended it. Because, as I say, it is one empire, and both Wayward and Stomaria are utilising both of these woodland plots for different purposes. And so it is a mutually beneficial arrangement in which we can both utilise this land in a really meaningful way. And this is something that I try to highlight as much as possible, because this is what real-world mutual benefit looks like. This is what real-world nation building, in the sense that what we're trying to do, looks like. And this is something I just want to re-emphasise. However, before 2022, when this exchange happened, the Kingdom of Wayward, as I say, was both of these plots. And before they became a member state in 2021, they were simply an ally of Stomaria. They weren't affiliated more formally than being an external trade partner, if you like. I was very good friends with King Raoul, but there was no inclination when we first met in 2019 all the way up to 2021 that the Kingdom of Wayward would simply merge into the wider empire as a member state. And during this time, and even as a member state of the empire, we have had a lot of people come and go within the Kingdom of Wayward. Now, the Kingdom of Wayward's citizenship and support base has always been far larger than Stomaria's. In fact, from day one, they already had the community and they had the land. From the get-go, they had everything that we aspired to one day accomplish. But we were a bit more slow-paced, methodical. We like to think about things a bit more, perhaps, try to work out what's going to be the best course of action in terms of getting citizens involved, in terms of acquiring land, in terms of how we get people directly involved in the utilisation of that land, and all the rest of it. We were, as I say, we were very slow-paced. In fact, for the first year of our own existence, we did not allow supporters to become Stomarian citizens because we wanted to make sure that we fleshed out exactly what we were trying to do and how we were going to go about doing it. And, you know, I'm on record saying as much. However, with the Kingdom of Wayward, their community was twofold. You have people that have become and remain steadfast supporters and official citizens of Wayward and have been for many, many years. And then there is a more direct kind of citizenship, if you like, in which people would actually come to the woodland territory and they would stay there for extended periods of time. They would help to develop it, they would help to work the land, and they would feel it would feel like a genuine community. I travelled there many, many times. Probably I must have been there over 100 times at this point, and many of those times there was a large Waywardian community present for much of my time there. And this was the case well up until after the pandemic. However, something that has always been very consistent with the people that actually arrive at the woodland and work the woodlands and stayed at the woodland was that the turnover in terms of the people that got involved and then subsequently decided it wasn't for them was very high in my experience, certainly from what I saw, and I'm sure King Raoul would probably tell me the same. There are a few gems, there are a few steadfast, we've been here since day one kind of citizens and supporters of Wayward, and I wouldn't knock them at all. But there have been occasions, for instance, where I've even witnessed many individuals swear oaths of allegiance to King Raoul and to the Kingdom of Wayward more broadly. And literally none of these people have swore any of these oaths or have pledged their loyalty and fealty and commitment to the community. Many, many of these people are no longer involved. And this would not be a problem in itself. However, Wayward has always had a policy of trying to help people that the system, if you like, has neglected or simply spat out. People that suffer from various addictions or mental health issues and all the rest of it. These are the sorts of people that King Raoul in particular has a lot of time and patience for, and has always sought to help, often to the detriment of himself and his family. And that I think is quite admirable in some sense, but is also obviously quite problematic, because attracting too many of these kinds of individuals does tend to cause division and drama and some level of anxiety for other people within that community while they're there. And I don't think that's too far-fetched to say. I have seen entire Waywoodian communities, literally, you know, 7 or 8 people at a time. They would be there 1 month, and then within 6 months they were all replaced by someone else or other people, and the sort of cycle continued for a little while. And I've heard plenty of horror stories of people, for the most mundane reasons, throwing out the toys out the pram, leaving forever, messaging back saying, I'm gonna come burn down the woodland or whatever else. Nothing too, well, I say nothing too serious, but nothing that would necessarily threaten the well-being of any of the attendees. It was just sort of online talk, online threats and that sort of thing. And that sort of talk has happened before. And, you know, it is raised some level of concern in the sense that you have an increasing number of people who have come to this woodland territory, and so they know where it is, and they've left, and not always left on the best of terms. Now, 9 times out of 10, you will not hear from these particular individuals ever again. And that's absolutely fine, doesn't make much difference. Occasionally, some might drift back into the community and given a second chance and proving their worth. Other times, as I say, they just completely fall out of sight and out of mind. Many of the people that have come to the woodland territory have committed themselves to Wayward. Sometimes their stay was so short that even in between my frequent visits to the woodland territory, they'll have already come, stayed there, had a falling out, left, and I would have not necessarily even known anything about it, or certainly I would have never met them. And now this isn't to knock, I should stress, the Kingdom of Wayward or King Raoul in any shape or form. What they have been trying to do is incredibly admirable. They have been trying to help as many people as possible. They have been trying to really build that real world community. I have often voiced my concerns with particular individuals in the past. I'm not going to say, you know, I was right here, there and everywhere. But there's always a risk when you involve people. And when you involve people you don't know, and the only thing you do know about them is that they have some kind of problem, that just opens up the possibility, a very strong possibility, that things aren't going to work out quite as well as you had hoped. Now, this leads me on to the actual topic of this particular video. I just wanted to get it out there. I wanted to for everyone to understand where this kind of comes from. Now, as I say, and as I've said, 9 times out of 10, it's not an issue. People will come to the woodland, they'll stay there for a little while, it won't be for them, they'll leave on either amicable terms or not so great terms, but we won't hear from them again, we won't see them again. And there's, you know, as I say, out of sight, out of mind, not an issue. However, there has been occasion, and this would be perhaps one of the more, not even extreme ones, but certainly one of the most notable ones as far as I'm concerned, of individuals who have left on not very good terms at all, but have decided instead to initiate some kind of vendetta against Wayward in particular. Stomaria, I would imagine, is simply just caught up in the crossfire in the sense that this transpired before Wayward became a member state of the Empire of Stomaria, or before Stomaria and Wayward had anything more concrete and formal in the way that we do now. However, the Kingdom of Wayward is a member state of the Empire of Stomaria, and I take any slight or action against them as a slight or action against us. And more to the point, where these particular individuals have decided to trespass on, which I'll get into in a moment, is actually southward. It is a province of Stomaria itself. It's my private property. And again, this is not something that I take lying down. This is not something I'm going to ignore. Now, do I think that this is an impending threat to my well-being or the well-being of my family or the people that attend these events? No. But this does set a precedent. And so to give you a bit of additional context, I suppose, two particular individuals who we are very confident of their identity. As soon as I saw the video, which was forwarded to me by a Stomarian citizen, they said, "Have you seen this video?" They sent me the video. I saw the video. It's two goofballs dressed head to toe, so you can't tell their identity, putting on these fake Russian accents, taking a video footage of southwards, bragging on camera that they stole some trivial item. And when I say trivial, I'm talking $7.99 from eBay trivial. In fact, until they actually made the video, we didn't even know that this particular item was missing, and had it been missing, we would not have batted an eyelid. However, the point is that they were at the woodland, and if they are to believe, they did steal something from the territory. And this has not exactly raised alarm bells, but because we know who these individuals are, or I'm actually confident about who these individuals are, I had my own suspicions as soon as I first saw the video, and King Raoul and other Waywoodians have since verified the identity of these particular individuals. Despite being covered head to toe, we are very confident as to who they are. Now, the issue is obviously that this sets some kind of precedent, because they're trying to get attention, because they're trying to whip, I suppose, Stomaria or Wayward into some kind of frantic panic or frenzy. The threat, if you like, of we've been here and we could potentially do more. That is something that obviously we have considered. Now, this the video footage, and when we were aware of this is all long before the Imperial Summit actually took place, and we haven't really given much thought since. But we did want to make this particular video because we want to re-emphasize that there are people out there that say, why don't you engage in these Twitter or Reddit or Discord condemnations of Stomaria or Wayward, or these attacks on you, or these libelous points or posts or whatever else that they're spreading about you. And the simple truth is that it means nothing, because we are far too busy, far too preoccupied in actually building something, and far too busy and far too preoccupied dealing with what could potentially be more genuine threats to the well-being of our territories and to the people that actually attend these sorts of events. Because I know the history of these particular individuals, if they are indeed the people that we believe they to be, and they have particular afflictions, for lack of a better word, that could make them dangerous. And so we have decided to take various steps in order to protect the woodland territories, that being Southwood and Wayward South. We don't take any threats of people coming onto our property, of stealing our property, of potentially harassing or intimidating people that arrive at the woodland. Who's to say when they're going to arrive? Who's to say what they're going to do if they arrive? We don't know. And so we're going to be taking steps in order to mitigate that risk. So one of the things that we are going to be doing is we are going to be reinforcing a lot of the dead hedging, establishing new fencing around the entire perimeter of the woodland in order to mitigate the chances of them being able to access the land at all. We have quite sturdy security as things stand, and it's not easy to get into the woodland. We are surrounded on all three sides by either a road or public, two private roads and a public road, and the only other adjacent border has a long hedge line and fence against it. But we are going to be reinforcing all of these as much as we can, as much as would be reasonably practical, in order to deter not just these two particular individuals, but for anyone else from trespassing on this woodland. Something else we're going to be doing is, for the most part, with taking off-site much of the like archery equipment or anything potentially lethal, for lack of a better term, because the kinds of people that will stumble onto the woodland in order to potentially cause damage or to cause havoc, if they are these particular individuals, or indeed any other individual, they may well be under the influence of something. And the last thing we want them to do is to hurt themselves or anyone else by having tools, equipment, and indeed what you would simply call weaponry accessible to them. It's all under lock and key anyway, but taking it off-site completely is probably the safest bet on that front, because but beforehand we never really expected this to be an issue. But because it is, we need to take steps to mitigate the risk to themselves and to others. Something else we are going to be doing is installing various perhaps more visible CCTV cameras, as well as various trail cams, which will be hidden in undisclosed locations, in order to ensure that we do have footage of any potential trespassing activities in the future. And perhaps one of the more direct and impactful ways we're going to try to reduce the chances of this being an issue in the future is by effectively having 24-hour security. In the sense, we do have people who are willing and able to effectively take shifts at the woodland, certainly for the foreseeable future, and that is something that we are going to take full advantage of. So we are going to have citizens of the Empire taking it in turns, taking it in shifts if you like, to ensure that there is always someone at the woodland. And so if anyone does try to trespass, if anyone does tries to, as I say, steal property, harass guests or whatever else, then there is always going to be someone there to report that and to hopefully de-escalate any issues that might arise in the future. Now, none of this is to say that this is going to be an issue going forward, in the sense that we're not expecting armed soldiers at the gate, we're not expecting blood in the streets or anything like that, but we do have to take precautions, because what we are doing is very real and very genuine. We are investing a lot of time, a lot of energy into what we're building, and it only takes a couple of idiots who think that they're funny to disrupt what we are doing, either deliberately or not. And this kind of activity does concern me to some degree or another, because obviously it's not just southward and wayward south I have to worry about. I obviously bring my family to these woodland territories, as does many other people, and I don't want people arriving there unannounced and uninvited to harass my family or other people's families there. But more than that, we're going to have territories elsewhere, and these are also things that we're going to have to consider. In addition to that, my own home, I have had people in the past threaten to assault me, threaten to arrive on my doorstep, threaten to even send various things through the post. I have had all of this before. None of it's ever come to anything, namely because these sorts of threats are normally made by 12-year-olds who need their mum's permission to actually drive down here to intimidate me, which obviously is not something that's easy to sell. So the idea that I would be physically threatened or verbally threatened in any shape or form is not something I've ever really considered to be a genuine risk. But when you do have people who are stupid enough to film themselves trespassing on private land and admitting on camera that they have apparently stolen some trivial item, then again, this is just something we need to think about going forward. And I suppose it's just the next natural step for the Empire of Stomaria, because at some point we are going to get into this kind of situation where there will be people, as we continue to grow and expand and our citizenship numbers go from the dozens to the hundreds to the thousands, as the territories that we control, the amount of land that we have goes from, the single acreages to tens of acres to hundreds of acres. As we continue to grow, as we continue to expand, as we continue to develop, more and more people will try to undermine us, not through Reddit or Discord or Twitter or Facebook or anything like that, but by actually physically trying to destroy us in some form or another, be it as a joke or with malicious intent. But either way, the effect is the same. And so again, we just really need to be on top of this. And in Stomaria, we never do things by half measure. We always take all the necessary practical steps in order to secure our future, and this is another step towards that goal. So, just to reiterate, and just to put anyone's minds at ease, I am not expecting anyone to come to any harm. I'm not expecting anyone to feel threatened necessarily at the woodland when they do come to visit. However, I am conscious of the fact that there are people that will try to get into the woodland with ill intent and could potentially do damage either to themselves or to property. And so we just want to make sure that we are taking all the appropriate steps to mitigate that. So, with all of that in mind, if you did enjoy this video, then please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll catch you in the next one.